Okay, so let's try it
Okay.
again.
Take two.
Okay, take two. Hi, I'm Nina Schacht,
And I'm Jane Schek.
and you're listening to GGUTT Talks.
GGUTT.
Cool, only two takes. Well, talking about France, one study I did, I really loved it. It was about the front design of washing machines. So really like, how do you perceive what it looks like, high class, premium, whatsoever? So kind of to have the situation when you're running through the technic market and see the things from, I don't know, 10, 15 meters, which one do you go to? So it was clear we can't do that with printouts. So we had, I think, a total of 20 washing machines, from quite cheap to really premium. And we did the research in Germany and in Paris. And I just remember I arrived at the facility in the morning and there was like a traffic jam all over the place. I was like, what's going on here? And then I came around the corner and saw like, oh gosh, that's my truck delivering my 20 washing machines. And the guys didn't like the idea of bringing them up. I think it was third floor, 21. I was just like trying to pretend to have nothing to do with it. I just walked by, went to the next cafe, had my croissant, thought like, oh, they're going to deal with that.
Wow.
That
Sometimes
was
we
really
set up, we make some really incredible setups. Just last week I was in Hamburg, and I said we've done quite a lot of automotive research. And one thing that the automotive companies do is what's called a car clinic. It's a special kind of research. So you have a big shed, and you have like lots of different cars in the same category, and then you have the prototype. So it's all really, really secret, and people have to go through like security and no pictures and there wasn't even a clock on the wall. So I was like, how am I going to know, how am I going to time my interview? Because I wasn't allowed to take my watch. I wasn't allowed to take my phone, but gut feeling, Nina knows this as well. You know exactly when 2 hours are up,
yeah.
we just know.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then, no, it's that there's so many funny stories about car clinics because cars, not just in Germany, are such an emotional topic. And when people get into a prototype or a car or whatever, they start telling you things that sometimes you think, oh God, I really didn't want to know all this. Um, so yeah. And
Yeah.
that thing that I think is also really surprising, what I really enjoy about the job, but sometimes it's very frustrating, is when you realize, I'm just going to say this for all the marketing people out there listening, how little a lot of people know, are in connection with their targets, with the people that are buying their stuff. How really they just are so confused when they see what I call the day-to-day reality of their customers. Because I mean, I can understand that, because they spend all their time thinking about it and overthinking it. But we don't spend our lives thinking about, what soap detergent am I going to buy tomorrow? So, and I remember we did this project for a company that made these tabs for the dishwashers.
Yeah.
And we had it was a group discussion, but before the group discussion, we had done in homes. So we'd been to watch people loading their dishwasher, how they do it and everything. And they introduced this new tab, and it had, I don't know, 5 or 7 stripes and a power wall. And it was the non plus ultra of dishwashing. There was this phase where they do more and more and more and more. And the client that was watching was the product developer. She was a chemist. And we were talking about it in the group discussions, and the women were going, yeah, 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 yeah. And then I said, well, if this comes on the market, how would that change the way you use your dishwasher? What would you do? And they're like, no, nothing really. I would just put it in that thing, close it, put it on, and yeah, or anything else. What about, would you stop using anything else? Because they use the salt and the stuff to make it sparkly. And they're like, no, no, no. And the woman, she actually came out of the room where when you were doing offline focus groups, you have the client behind a one-way mirror. It's like a police station, and you are the other side with the respondents. And she actually came into the room, which is like, whoa, she came into the room and she's like, and she like attacked me. She said, "They don't understand the product." Yeah. So we went back. We had a little talk, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure both of you know why the women reacted the way they did. I don't know if it's still up to date. I was discussing this the other day with some other people. But if you don't put the salt and the clear stuff, the rinsing liquid in your dishwasher, lights go on and it makes noises and it complains. So you can make a tab with 20 stripes and 50 power balls. It won't have any difference because the reality of the people using the machines is a different one. And I think that that's just a very rather old, but a very good example of how often how little things can make such a big difference and how important it is to not just talk to people, but to actually get out and observe. So this is also something that startups could do. If you're scared of having like a conversation, it depends on your product, of course, but you can go and watch people. I made a project about some kind of software for people to take account of the insurance that the company gives their employees. And the company, I was working for the insurance company, and they wanted to understand why people were not using the software. And I talked to all these people about the software and how you could use it and everything, and why and they said, yeah, they used it, but they all had behind them in their offices wall-to-wall files. They printed everything out. And the insurance company couldn't understand because the USP of this platform was that you was paperless. But
So
all
you
the
came
offices,
after they developed the
no, people were using the platform that was supposed to
Okay.
create paperless office, but
Mhm.
they were still printing everything out. Because I was working for this guy, a social psychologist, had his own agency, and I would go along to presentations and I'd seen the groups, I'd taken notes, and I'd been tagged along to the interviews and done the transcribing of the interviews. And he would stand up in front of the clients and say, do, 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 do. And I was like, where did that come from? Did he make that up? And then like 20 years later, I'm doing it. But it's this, you just need, and it's so difficult because I feel so sorry for people starting out in the industry because I don't want to tell them that, you just know, you know. But in the rest of my life, I'm really good at taking really big decisions. I mean, at taking them, it doesn't mean that they're good decisions.
Mhm.
I'm really bad at the little ones. Should I go
But
to
it's
the gym first or have breakfast or shower? And then 2 hours later, I'm like, what did I want to do? So, but I do. I have spent my life making big decisions, big life, and it's always been from a sense of that's the only option I have is to move forwards.
Okay. You're reminding me of
I'm
stuff here. Go ahead, Nina.
yeah, just been thinking about it, and I love it how you phrased that, Jane. I remember a thing that my senior back then in my early, I don't know, it was my first or second year, told me, because the thing was like, group discussions. And my question was, how do I know when I stop asking? So you have the topic and ask like, like, I don't know, how do you like it or blah, blah, whatsoever. And I was always like, because you have a specific time frame of 2 hours with these people, you have a lot of topics to cover. So how in the world do I, as a moderator, know, okay, there's nothing more to come. Let's move on to the next topic, or that's it. And the answer of my senior was when the chart is full. And what? And it's
Wow.
true. And honestly, and I can't phrase it better because also I'm sitting in these groups and I realize, yeah, my chart is written, while I have these conversations. And, yeah, I'm writing the chart and I realize, okay, I have all my pros and cons, okay, let's move on. And that's also, well, you can call it gut feeling. However, well, I'm a psychologist and I actually did a lot of work on intuitive decision making. And psychology is quite clear on that gut feeling is not emotional, but it's based on implicit experiences you made through your life, and you can just access it quicker than your brains. So gut feeling is not like this, oh, I'm feeling like, but it's just you can access this very quickly. So yeah, when the chart is full, you go to the next topic, and that's gut feeling based
So
on
let's move
experience.
to the next topic then. On that note, though, I'll tell you when I started using my gut feeling. I think dictation in French, right? The French grammar is more complicated than like the English one or so on. So I was really good actually at dictation, but I would just trust my gut. Like, yeah, this word should have an S at the end or not. But don't ask me about the grammar. I had no idea. let's move a bit to the next topic. Again, I'm just taking notes based on what you're saying, but maybe in a nutshell, let's be quick on that one. I know it's important, but for startups and large organizations, not everybody is aware of research, why it's important. And it's not like you do it once and then you move on for the next 100 years, right? So, why is it important for the listeners who have companies, startups, SMEs, even freelancing, right? How would you tell them
Very,
to do this?
very quick answer. I think no company, no matter in which field, can exist without humans purchasing their product. So how can you have the idea of building a product without talking to those humans? That would be my very short answer on that one.
Yeah, you can't afford not to do research. And I think also we're seeing a shift in the way business works has changed. Deregulation, globalization. You used to be that companies could work like top down. You start a company because you're very good at something. You can build something. You're very good at it. And then you have the idea, everybody needs this. So I'm building it for everybody who needs it because I need it. And maybe that worked for a while. That did work for a while when we had people making, but it doesn't work anymore because your customers have so much choice. They don't have to buy your product. If you're building, I always say to the startups, the number one reason why startups fail is lack of product market fit.
Yes.
And it has been proven several times. So, that's the answer, because you can't afford not to do it. And I always say to them, make sure you're not making a solution for a non-existent problem.
Mhm.
So I think you need to have research to understand the everyday reality of the people that are supposed to be buying your product or service so that it can dock onto their needs. So yeah, you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
And everything
And
is faster. So what are you going to do? Are you going to build a product, throw it on the market and wait for it to fail and then start again?
Yeah. And raise more money if you
I'd
can
rather
without
fail in a
that.
focus
Yeah.
group. I said it again. I'd rather fail in a focus group at the concept stage than build something that nobody wants.
But that's an interesting one here, because you have like so many times. I think it's a post I made on LinkedIn, and you commented also on that. It's where so many times I actually ask startups and founders is like, have you spoken to potential customers? Did you go out? Yeah. And then when you try to dig deeper, it's like they ask the neighbor or the other startup next to them or someone, and then it ended here. Whereas they move so fast as a startup, like they iterate all the time, right? Things change all the time, and the research is not up, like following. In that
It's very hard for them. So
it is.
I think we have to be a little bit not so strict. Obviously they should be doing it, but we have to accept the fact that it's difficult for them. This is why I've been working for the last, I think maybe 8 years in the town I used to live in with the local business and innovation center and the university and the research institutes there. There are a lot of startups coming out of the academic field and technical, because we have a Fraunhofer Institute for Software Development and we have a technical university. So a lot of ideas are coming out of that. And it is very difficult for these people they've never learned it.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't understand. I think the problem is not so much that they don't understand the need. It's more that they don't have the skills. And it's our jobs to help them do that, to lower the threshold and to make it accessible for them and to hold their hands. I do things like in workshops, I get them to practice interviewing each other, just really basic stuff. Give them a fictional startup and say, right, I'm the CEO and I want you to interview each other and come back with some, the new disruption, the big thing, and make it fun.
Yeah. And they have so many other things to do also. So it's like, what are the priorities? Obviously, they need to get out there, and there's pressure because there's limited time, there is limited money.
Yeah.
So
And also, just to add to that, I've often seen that business analytics was mistaken as research. So I'm going into startups and like, oh, we know everything about the user. And oh, cool. Who have you talked to? Oh, no. And then, I've seen amazing dashboards where I felt like, well, we know everything these people are doing on the website, app, blah, blah, whatsoever. But I always told them, well, with that, we can only see what your users are doing with what you offer them.
Yeah.
But we don't know what they might do differently, what they wish they need, whatsoever. So that there is always a big mistake, like data analytics being research. It's not.
I think also like you, Maria, I teach problem-based learning at a technical university. I'm not allowed to call it design thinking at the university. I teach that to engineers, and I realized then how the education system is not really preparing them for that kind of human-centered, openness, taking risks. They're not always being a right answer. The ambivalence that you need, the ambiguity at the beginning of the fuzzy front end of innovation where you don't know the answer and you need to find it out. So when I ask my students to do like research, so they do Google Forms and they try and dig out research, data that is already available off the university computer. And I go, no, you really have to go and talk to people. And it's so hard.
Yeah.
But to crack that kind of mindset, and I think that it's not just a problem. I think as a society, I mean, I also I'm very interested in design and research in the public sector. So we need as a society, and I think there is a movement. It's starting very slowly. Maybe this is just my bubble, but I hope it's not. At a kind of an acceptance for the fact that it's okay to not have the answer to everything, even if you are the CEO. Or even if you are the minister for, and that nobody expects you to say, this is how it works, but that it's actually, you're a better leader if you say, let's research it, let's look at it, let's talk to the people.
On that note, actually, just to make you feel better, Jane, even design students who have like a background in design, like completely, what I witnessed is I have to like push them 100 times to get out on the street and interview people. And I was surprised by this one. I mean, so it's not just like if design students find it hard, then the others will as well. So that's at least my experience, right, as I've seen it. So interesting points here. I just want to have some room for stories also. So let's start with this one before we jump into a story, because this could lead us to some stories, funny stories, sad stories, amazing stories. Up to you. I leave it to you. But how do you approach a project? And then maybe you can share some. I know you have great stories, but I'll let you decide what you want to share.
One of the first questions I ask people is, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what they want me to do and how they think it should be done, is to always like take several steps back and to always like come back and say, okay, what is the business goal behind all of this? Let's just not talk about research. What do you really need to, what is the pain in the company or in the department? What will you do with the outcomes? Because this is something I've learned from the hard way. Because you spend a lot of time and energy on a research project, you come back and you present the results and they say, no, we can't do that. And the other one is, what have you done already? What have you already tried? So that would be the first thing I would do. Take a big step back and look at the whole thing from the higher level.
Good one. Not more to add. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of contextualizing where everything's coming from.
Yeah.
That would be about it. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into details like, are you working with their own teams and things like that, because then we go too deep, I think, and we can leave this for another time. But do you have some stories you can share of like what happened? Some maybe using different methods, like things that happened that took you by surprise.
I get surprised every day.
Yes. Actually, I always kind of have this tiny little never started it project in my head stand-up comedy with qualitative researchers because I think we all have the craziest stories. I mean, because again, it's being out there with humans. I'm just thinking how I would prioritize. Well, emotionally, I find it's sometimes it really gets me when I realize about which topics people start crying in the interviews. That's some what I realized, and the most emotional topic you can research, it's cat food.